Harambe! 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 Boom! 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 Dayton Lovelace! Boom!
May we have permission from the elders to begin? You have my permission. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dayton Lovelace. I am Dean's middle daughter. I just want to welcome you guys out to dedicate or rededicate the street name. We thought that this was just the least that we could do to celebrate my dad. He was such an awesome man. He did so much in this community, and he started from the grassroots. So I can't really say enough or feel enough about the fact that people want to honor him. When the Elders Council reached out to the family to do this, it made me smile, because anything that has to do with my dad and bring his memory back, it touches my heart. Like, it's amazing that so many people, all different walks of life, all different everything, he was able to bring these people together. So I think the city of Dayton has been very blessed to have Dean Lovelace to pioneer and lead so many different crusades for us. So I'd like to welcome you guys. I thank you for coming out, and I'll pass it on to Brother Larry to get started with the libation. Okay.
For our ancestors, for those who established the first villages and taught themselves how to hunt, fish, plant crops, for those ancestors, those early ancestors in East Africa, we pour this libation. Ashe. For all those ancestors that built great civilizations in the Nile Valley, for those who built the civilizations of Merowe and Kemet and Nubia, for all those great ancestors who brought the world advances in science and city living, we pour this libation. Ashe. For all of our ancestors who built cities and civilizations in West Africa, like Ghana, Songhai, Mali, Kanem Bornu, for those who built in the Congo, for those who built in South Africa and Monomatapa and other places, we pour this libation. For all of our ancestors who resisted a foreign invasion, for all of our ancestors who defended their ancestral homeland against incursions from outsiders and tried to galvanize their people in defense of their native land, we pour this libation. For all of our ancestors who experienced the Middle Passage, that crucible that bound African people together, no matter whether they be Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Mosi, Congolese, that slave ship where they recognized that everybody in chains was black, and that we should come together, the founders of the original natural Pan-Africanism, we pour this libation. For all of our ancestors who in this country struggled to bring not only to end slavery, but to bring a new dawn of justice on this land, for people like Frederick Douglass, for Harriet Tubman, for Sojourner Truth, for Martin R. Delaney, all of those ancestors from the 19th century going into the 20th century that built so that we who studied, built, wrote, spoke, so that we could have a freer and fuller life today, we pour this libation. For all of our ancestors in the 20th century, who in cities like Dayton, Ohio, and Columbus, and Chicago, and Philadelphia, and Amarillo, Texas, and everywhere else where we are, struggled for equal rights, who struggled for autonomy, who struggled to get the yoke off their back, for all those ancestors who were responsible for things like founding the public school system in this country because of their efforts through the Freedmen's Bureau and all those other efforts to provide health care and hope for the infirm and the aged, and for all the ancestors that wanted to open the doors to other people to come into this country. For those ancestors, we pour this libation. For all of our ancestors who were educators, who built the universities like Wilberforce and Lincoln University and Howard University and all of the independent black schools in this country, for all the educational committees that were formed to change curriculum in this country so that we could have our true history taught, we pour this libation. For our Dayton ancestors, for Brother Dean Lovelace, who did so much and who we're honoring today in specific, we pour this libation. But we also want to remember all of our grandmothers, grandfathers, fathers, and mothers who struggled to make a better world for us to come into. So let's call their names, those people here. I mentioned, well, that we're highlighting Brother Dean Lovelace, but we also should mention W.S. McIntosh. There's others. Let's all say them.
C.J. McLean.
C.J. McLean, that's right.
Melvin Dominic.
Melvin Dominic. My own father, Frank Crow.
Joseph Greer.
Joseph Greer. You all have relatives. This is a participatory ceremony, and this is a ceremony of remembrance. So call their names out. If you want their names remembered, call their names out.
Johnny Merritt.
Wade Sharpley.
So for all these ancestors who struggled with the Dayton City Commission, who struggled with the retail stores downtown, who struggled to build their own houses in Hog Bottom, saved bricks, those who established barbershops, beauty shops, funeral parlors, built 2 theaters on West 5th Street, the Palace and the Classic. For those ancestors, those great musicians like Snooky Young, for all the great funk musicians that came out of Dayton, for all the scientists that came out of Dayton, and all of our great people, we pour this last libation.
Hey. Boom! The ancestors are here.
Should I read the rest? Oh, okay. All right. Well, all right. I'm sorry. Programmatic. We, when Brother Dean passed, the Dayton Africana Elders Council came up with a resolution about his life. We talked about it and we put together a resolution. And we also put the word out that he had passed. And some of his colleagues around the country, you know, sent letters. And I want to read a particular letter that Brother Ron Daniels sent. Ron Daniels used to be in charge of the African Liberation Support Committee, the National Black Political Assembly, both historic organizations that came out of the struggle, what they call the Black Power movement of the 60s. I am proud to be part of that movement. I see Brother Minalai shaking his head. Many of you were part of that movement. Wednesday, I was at the University of Dayton. The students there are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the student organization BATU, Black Action Through Unity. All right? Brother Dean at the same time was at St. Clair Community College. Their organization was called BISCO, Black Student Cultural Organization. So I remember Dean with his briefcase, John Austin, William Bowman, others who were members of that group. At Wright State, we had the Committee for the Advancement of Negro Education in '68, but in '69 it changed to the Committee for the Advancement of Black Unity. We founded the Blinga Center out there. So these organizations were going on, and many other organizations. Antioch, I think, had the first black student organization in the area. They're in Jet Magazine. They had commandeered a building and called it Umoja House. They began in that house to try to sort out what their history was in this country and to figure out what we had to do as a people. Because just as our ancestors on the slave ship looked around and they recognized that everybody who had chains on was black, we recognized the same thing in the 1960s. Not the literal change, but the psychological change, the educational change, the economic change. So, Brother Ron Daniels is now with the Institute of the Black World, another venerable black organization that came out of the Black Power movement. And he sent this letter. June 5th, 2017, remembering Dean Lovelace, a message of condolence and celebration to the family and community from Dr. Ron Daniels. It was with a great deal of sadness that I received the news that an old friend, brother, and comrade in the struggle, Dean Lovelace, made his transition. As I am writing acknowledgments for a forthcoming book about my life's work, I had just made a note to mention the contributions, quote, back in the day, unquote, of Dean to the National Black Political Assembly, the Ohio Black Political Assembly, the Ohio Institute for Practical Politics, and African Liberation Day. As I reflect on this quiet, mild-mannered, effective, and much-loved warrior, my mood changed from sadness to celebration. Dean Lovelace was just a warm and wonderful human being, full of life and joy, but seriously dedicated to eradicating the oppression of black people and of all of suffering humanity. And so I say to the family and community, the ancestors are celebrating the arrival of a valiant kindred spirit who has left a legacy that will be commemorated as long as we, the living, emulate his work and call out his name during libation. Long live the memory of our beloved brother, Dean Lovelace.
Dean Lovelace.
Yeah.
That's from Dr. Ron Daniels, former president of the Ohio Black Political Assembly and the National Black Political Assembly, and co-founder of African Liberation Day and president of the Institute of the Black World.
Dean Lovelace. Ashe.
Here's our resolution from the Dayton Africana Elders Council. And I want everybody in the Elders Council to raise their hand so we know who's in it, who's here today. All the members, all the nation builders from the village, raise your hand.
In training.
All the warriors, all the sympathizers, raise your hand. All right. This is our resolution. It came out of our body. And this is what it is. This is the Dean Lovelace proclamation from the Dayton Africana Cultural Elders Council. Whereas Dean Lovelace was born January the 31st, 1946 in Ford City, Pennsylvania, to John and Edna Lovelace, passed Sunday, May 28, 2017. And whereas Dean was a graduate of Jefferson High School, Sinclair Community College, University of Dayton, and Wright State University, and attended courses at Central State University. I didn't realize he'd done all of them. And whereas he was an active supporter of the National Black Political Assembly and the Ohio Political Assembly, and whereas he was an active member of the African Liberation Support Committee and African Liberation Day, and whereas he was a critical supporter of the Dayton African American Cultural Festival, and whereas he was a critical supporter of the African American Cultural Festival, and whereas he was a member of the Northwest Priority Board and a prime mover behind the Northwest Recreation Center. And we wouldn't have that today without him. And whereas he was elected to the Dayton City Council in 1994, and whereas he always asked the question, what's in it for poor people and what's in it for black people? And whereas he was a fighter against predatory lending and pushed through a city ordinance against it. And whereas he fought for a living wage. And whereas he informed the community about low-income tax credits. And whereas he served our interest on the Community Reinvestment Board and the City Folk Board and many, many other civic boards. And whereas Dean Lovelace always encouraged the city of Dayton to award a fair number of contracts to African American and minority vendors. And whereas he was an environmental activist and co-founder of the Edgemont Solar Garden.
Hallelujah.
And whereas he retired from the University of Dayton as Director of Civic Scholars after 25 years of service. And whereas Dean Lovelace was elected to 6 terms as Dayton City Commissioner, making him the longest serving city commissioner in the history of Dayton with 22 years of service. And whereas Dean Lovelace was a public policy expert for Parity Incorporated and the founder of the Youth in Government program and so much more, be it resolved that we therefore pay our respects at the transition of a longtime Dayton City Councilman, Dean Lovelace, who is called to join our Africana ancestors on May the 28th, 2017.
Please listen to me.
Dean Lovelace.
Pronunciation. Lovelace, who walked through this community to make this city better for the west side of Dayton. He walked down Germantown, Nicholas Road, by the mound when they told him, you will never do it. He had a great inspiration. C.J. McLean inspired him to do what he did because C.J. McLean made it possible for Central State University to grow because Wright State was taking all of their money. Dean Lovelace is the person in this community that everybody should love. What we are here doing today. Look at me. I'm not from this area, but Dean Lovelace was a brother of mine, and I love him for everything that he did for each and every one of you. I thank you for listening to me. I'm out of breath now. Maybe I'll get married.
What's your name? Sorry.
My name is Willie World.
Okay. All right. And where are you from?
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay. All right. That's where they have the Hallie Q. Brown Center. Named for Hallie Q. Brown, who was a Wilberforce. That's the community, the big community center there. It's the only thing named for her, I think, in the area, in the country.
I thank each and every one of you all for coming out here, recognizing my friend so many years ago, Dean Lovelace, and you hear the correct pronunciation of the name, Dean Lovelace. Is that correct?
Shay.
May I have permission from the elders to say a few words? Yes. Appreciate it. Dean Lovelace, thank you. First, I have to thank the family for allowing us to come here and talk about your family member. We really appreciate it. We appreciate that you have allowed us to share your father, your husband, your grandpa, your uncle, your brother. We really appreciate that you allowed us to share him throughout his life, and now you are allowing us to share him as an ancestor. We still need him. We need him even more now. When you look at what is going on in Dayton today, we keep on asking ourselves, what would Dean say? Dean Lovelace to me, and I'm going to be very short. Dean Lovelace I'm short too. Dean Lovelace to me was a true friend. Not just a friend, but a true friend. A true friend is someone you don't call all the time, but you know they are there for you. It's someone you don't visit all the time, but you know they're looking out for you. It's someone you don't talk to all the time, but it is someone. A true friend is someone, when you are in need, you don't even have to call them. They call you first because they know you are in need. That's what Dean was like. A true friend is someone, when your friend, who Dean doesn't even know, is in trouble, you still know that you can call on him and he will come through. A true friend is when your friend's friend, you don't even know, and he certainly doesn't know. When they're in need, you know who to call, and you call Dean. That's what I call a true friend. Not just a regular friend, but a true friend. When I first came to Dayton, Ohio in 1975, I only knew two people, my husband then and his landlord. His landlady is still my big sister today. And his landlady is now 88, and she was also one of Dean's friends. And she became a true friend. Birds of a feather flock together. When I came here, I didn't know anyone, but Dean became a true friend. When I came here, I was running away from a country that was in trouble. A lot of people didn't want to touch me with a 10-foot pole. Dean did not even think about it. He was right there to help me immediately. That's why when he told me he was getting ready to go to Durban, South Africa, I said the circle is complete. Because a lot of people do not know how much work Dean did quietly to help the people of South Africa. So it was a full circle, because he did a lot of stuff quietly. There's a lot of stuff we can Google about him, there's a lot of stuff we can know about him, but there's a lot of stuff that will not even be on WikiLeaks or Google, because he did things quietly and accomplished things. Before I left home, my great-grandmother used to always tell us, if somebody else is suffering, you have to feel like you're suffering too and do something about it. So when I came here and I found out that a reporter from a certain channel I won't mention was being expelled because she stood up for her fellow African Americans, I said, oh no, Grandma told me not to be quiet. So I went, didn't know too much about Dayton, but I went to picket right there. Who do I meet? That's my first time meeting Dean and first time meeting C.J. McLean. And they both became true friends. And from then on, I learned a lot from Dean. He didn't just picket, but he followed through. If he started something, he didn't stop. He followed through. Dean helped a lot of my friends. He helped a lot of my friends with some of the things that he mentioned, with predatory lending. He helped a lot of my friends with fair housing. He helped a lot of my friends with a lot of things. One time I remember I had a friend who was way in Colorado, and she had a problem with a friend who was here in Dayton. When she called me, I said, oh, just call Dean. And she thought I was crazy. She said, I'm way out in Colorado. He doesn't even know this person I'm talking about. I said, call Dean. The next day, my friend called me, and she told me she left a message on the phone and was shocked when Dean called back. And not only did he call back, he followed through, and the problem was solved. This is what a true friend can really do for you. When we started with the libation, and we started with the drums. Dean would be happy, because when he was fighting to keep the historical theaters in West Dayton from being demolished, he used to call the African drummers and the African dancers to come and call upon the ancestors. So Dean knew who he was. Dean knew where he came from. And therefore, Dean was a true friend. In my language, we say, when someone passes on, we say agafile ulele, which means the person is not dead, they are just asleep. Dean is just asleep, but some people are light sleepers. And I have to say, he's a light sleeper. He can hear us right now.
Yes.
He is sleeping, but he can hear us. And now we have the legacy that Dean has left us. And our duty is not to just pour accolades and talk good about him. Our duty is to continue what he taught us to do and do it well. Agafile ulele.
Dean Lovelace.
Greetings. My name is Maha Selassie. I wanted to share a couple words about Commissioner Lovelace. When I think of Commissioner Lovelace, the first thing that comes to mind is just a lion, right? He was just that community force that advocated for the people tirelessly. That spoke the things that were hard to speak, difficult to speak. I just see him as like that warrior on the front lines. When I was first nominated to be on the Human Relations Council, it was actually Commissioner Lovelace and at that time Commissioner Whaley that were who I had to interview with to get the appointment. And ever since that time, his door was always open, and I learned a lot from him about like how to move in the community and how to leverage resources and how to stay engaged. What I appreciated was his tenacity. Like sometimes if you run for office and you didn't get elected the first time, people would be like, well, you do something else, right? You know what I mean? But he was so real about it that he kept pressing, right? He kept pushing, and he ended up being the longest. Once he got in, he was the longest commissioner, right? And so it was like he didn't base his value, worth, or resolve upon like the immediate results, right? He kept pressing regardless. And the way that he brought, I forget what the name of that group is called now, but the one that's dealing with the investment, the community investment, like that legacy is still being maintained, to this day, right? And it's been a force. I mean, like a lot of stuff that you see with the CREs and all that stuff came from the work that Commissioner Lovelace, had did for years. That's now bearing fruit, not only in Dayton in a major way, but across the nation, right? But I truly just appreciated his door was always open. You know what I mean? And his conversations would go like it would spread the gamut, right? You know what I mean? But he would just drop so many jewels that I always appreciated just being in his presence and just capturing the nuggets that he would share about how to be a better person, how to be an advocate for the community, and how to not back down in the presence of opposition, right? And that to me is the definition of power. And Dean Lovelace has had like extreme power with the community, for the community. And I truly consider myself someone that like he laid the seeds that a lot of us here today, are the product of, you know what I mean? And so I definitely say that we're standing on firm shoulders with Commissioner Lovelace.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Lovelace. Dean Lovelace.
Hi, I'm Leslie Lovelace. I'm Dean's oldest daughter. Is there anyone that wants to say anything before we close out? Or final remarks?
Wayne Johnson. One of the things I got to take from my friend and my commissioner was I used to pick him up and we used to ride around. I worked on his last campaign. And he shared with, I said, Dean, what was your driving force all these years? And he said to me, his wife.
she had the passion with all the things that was going on in our city. She had that passion, and she would bring it to him, and he just took it and ran with it. So I want to honor you too, Ms. Lovelace, because you are the force that drove our commissioner in the way that he have left. And I know it's in the children, and I know we're going to see more to come.
Okay. Thank you. My dad was pretty amazing, right?
Yes.
Just so grateful that you all came out to honor our dad today. I'm pretty overwhelmed because my dad was pretty awesome.
Yes.
And his contributions to the city were amazing. The world, amazing. But his contributions to our family is what is most important to us. And he was a great example, an outstanding man, and I miss him every day. I drive for a living, and every day I ride through this city, and I'm just constantly reminded of my dad. Just so much that he did throughout this city. He really loved this place. Our last dedication, I said that it was really important to us. I mean, it's special to us that our street is named after him. My dad always wanted a house from the ground up, like that no one else lived in, and so this house was very dear to him. Him and my mother put a lot of work into having this house created, so he was very, very happy here. And so we're honored that this street, that we get to come down this street and see his name on it. We love you guys. He loves you guys. He loved this city. He loved us. And we're so very proud of him. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, I will. Oh,
Go ahead.
I just want to say that the Holy Spirit appreciates your father's work. The work that your father did for Mother Earth is indescribable. And maybe that's why the first one was not as attended as much, because it's indescribable, and everybody needs to know. And today was supposed to be the day. 9118 was supposed to be the day. And this day will be proclaimed as a day for him today. Today is a really, really great day. Today is your dad's day, because your dad was prolific. Your dad was prolific, and he will not be forgotten. Lovelace. His love laced up his city.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it did.
Dean Lovelace and I had very different experiences, but somehow our values really kind of come together. And part of that is his role modeling and teaching and shaping others who have helped shape me. I can't help but remember a conversation I had with him. He would tell me the story about the first time he wanted to run for office. And Joe Shump, who was the chair of the Democratic Party, pulled him into his office and told him he couldn't run. And Dean told me that he looked at Joe and said, "Are you my daddy?" Are you my daddy? Because no one's going to tell me what to do but my daddy.
Hallelujah.
And so that has always stuck with me. And, his commitment to the people of Dayton goes, way beyond our words to express. And I'm mindful that if I have the math right or the dates right, May 28th, 2017 was his homegoing. 1 year anniversary was the day that I was sworn in as a commissioner. And so I'm mindful of his legacy, and that we all stand on shoulders. And in that commission seat, I sit on his shoulders. And want to honor his legacy. With permission of the elders, I'd like to speak. Commissioner, thank you. What he said, I also agree with. I had the pleasure of serving with my friend and colleague for 12 years. He sat right next to me on the dais. But my history with him started earlier than that. When I was a student at UD, he was teaching there, and I knew him there. So I've known him a long time. A couple of speakers have mentioned that one of the things about Dean was his driving force. He was dedicated, he was focused, and he showed all of us the power of being that dedicated and that focused, and having patience too. You wouldn't think that was a driving part of his personality, but he knew what he wanted. He was focused on the goal. He was going to work toward it for years, Whether it was making sure that we at the city were handing out contracts in a fair way, maybe giving a little more to the people who needed it here in our community, whether it was working on making sure that people weren't taken advantage of with loans and houses. But whatever it was, he was tenacious. And a lot of times he was years ahead of his time. But he really worked hard toward it. And I learned that from him. I learned that and I'm continuing to use that today. I'm in my 15th year as a commissioner. I know I won't ever match Dean's longevity. That's a record. But I'm learning every day. I miss him every day. And I will say that part of his legacy that maybe we all can strive for is to leave a legacy so big that you affect things years and years even after you're gone, even after you transition. He had a huge legacy. I was talking to some of the Wallace folks a minute ago. Just driving over here from where I was, you could see 8, 10, 12 things that he had affected, whether it was the cut through of McGee, whether it was the demolition or new buildings or new jobs that came just right down this corridor here. He had a huge effect, and even more so, especially in these times that are uncertain and troubled and dangerous times. Boy, I tell you, the fact that I can feel him sitting right next to me and urging me to do the right thing and to think about the people. That's powerful. I know it's the same for Commissioner. It's the same for Commissioner Williams, who I talked to this morning. He had the same experience. And we on the City Commission, we feel like Dean is still there with us as a powerful voice for doing the right thing for the people, especially in these tough times. When it was tough, Dean did not run. He did not. He stuck. He fought hard, and that's what he's urging us to do right now.
Yes.
So thank you all. Thank you to the family. Thank you to you all for being here to remember who was the guy who was a really good friend of mine. Thank you.
I told my dad before he passed that God certainly had a purpose and plan for his life. Because he was incredible, seriously, just the way his mind worked, the way that he did everything, and the way that he was able to be there for us. Like, we shared him, but we didn't feel like we did. He was home every night for dinner. He was at all of our events. He didn't miss anything. He would come to Atlanta to see me. He did everything, and so I know that God truly had a plan for his life to fulfill his purpose here while he was here. So again, we thank you so much for coming, and we ask that you just continue to deposit his legacy into others and live your best life. Do the right thing, good things, and be blessed.
One more thing, we always close our Africana Elders programs out with 7 Harambes. In East Africa, when people have a heavy load to lift or a heavy load to pull, they all get together, grab the rope or put their backs to it and say, Harambe. Oh, and they all push, So during Kwanzaa, during other public events, we always do 7 Harambes to symbolize pulling together, against great odds. So, Brother Shaq, lead us.
Ashe? Ashe. Give it up for everybody. Ashe?
Ashe.
Just real quick, I just left London and Paris, and I met with the Queen Mother of London. And the Queen Mother of London, I asked her now about the Harambes. Of course, Harambe means pull together. You pull 7 times and you hold it. So I said, what does that really mean, Queen Mother, who had 8 PhDs? At 108 years old, she had 8 PhDs. She said, we're grabbing the ancestor spirit and we're pulling it to us. So Harambe is just not pulled together. Trick no good. It's not just pulled together. Something we need to do better of in our community. I say. But we're grabbing the ancestors, starting with Dean Lovelace. Yeah, and Dean mentored me. I was about 17 years old. Matter of fact, he checked me, but I won't even go through that. I'm not going to tell y'all my business up in here. All right? But Dean checked me and told me make sure I was a public servant. And that I served the public, and I've never forgot. And when I needed somebody that was smarter than me, I called him. So we're going to do a Harambe 7 times. The last one, you're going to hold it. And then we're going to go boom. Boom, meaning the ancestors heard it. Freedom! They ain't ready for that. Here we go. Harambe, y'all ready? Ready, go. Harambe! 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 Boom! 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 Dean Lovelace! Boom! Harambe! Harambe! Harambe!